Greetings and welcome. Call this meeting of the Saco School Board to order for April 27, 2022 at 5 p.m. Let the record reflect that all the school board members are present, including the school superintendent. I'd like to invite you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Item 3 is approval of the school board meeting minutes dated April 12, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Truman.
I move we approve the school board meeting minutes dated April 12th, 2022.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Truman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Richard. Any discussion? No discussion on the minutes. Roll call vote. School Board Member Archie.
Yes.
School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Gale.
Yes.
School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to item 4. Are there any adjustments to the agenda this evening? Hearing no adjustments to the agenda, moving on to item 5. Any correspondence this evening? Seeing no correspondence, moving on to item 6, public session. At this time, there's been one person who has signed up for public session, and that is Anna McCard. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Please speak directly into the microphone.
Hello, Anna McCard, 533 Buxton Road. Is that too loud? First of all, I would like to thank all of the staff. Some tenured staff members I know are retiring at the end of the year, and I just want them to know how much I appreciate their service and commitment to our children. Mine especially have been very close with some of those staff members, and I do appreciate everything that they've done for me and my family. The next thing is I wanted to talk about the bus and just what the heck is going on with that. All of my children have been in pre-K. We've been in pre-K for 4 years. I've never had any issues until this year. And I am willing to take full acknowledgement that sometimes I run late. I'm a busy mom of 3. I work a full-time job. Everybody has commitments. I get it. Buses are on a strict timeline. But at some point, you have to acknowledge that we're all human and things happen. Life happens. And I had a not-so-pleasant experience with one of the staff members. That was on April 6th. It's now April 27th. And the only resolution I've been able to come up with is to pull my daughter out of the pre-K program because I'm unable to find a different solution. I finally got a call back today from Jeremy Ray, and we talked about it. And our solution is to agree to disagree. The irony is that I've talked to other parents now, and they've said they have the same issues or have had similar issues. So I just want to make sure that the school board is aware that this is going on, and it's not so much just a staffing issue as an overall attitude issue. And I don't know if any of you have called the bus department, but I'm pretty sure they answer the phone with Saco Transportation, and they don't say hello, they don't ask how you're doing. I get that it's busy, but these are like the most basic soft skills, and I think that's very discouraging to parents when they're calling, wondering where their kids are. My sons were involved in a bus collision earlier this year, and it took over an hour for them to get to their daycare provider, who at that point was frantically texting me, asking me if I sent my kids to school that day. So you can imagine me in a meeting trying to be professional, getting a message of like, where are your kids? And I'm like, what do you mean I dropped them off? Nobody called. Nobody said anything. And I didn't call. I let that go because we're human and we make mistakes. But at some point, there has to be some accountability. And somebody needs to be aware that this is happening. And I know in the budget there is money being allocated so you can track the bus, which is wonderful. That's great news for next year. But that doesn't solve the problem for the here and now. So I appreciate your time and your consideration, and I hope that everybody else has a fabulous rest of the year and a better bus experience than me.
Thank you. That is it for those that have signed up. If there's anyone else who would like to speak before the school board, come forward and be heard. And again, please state your name and address for the record.
I would like to use my picture of who I'm discussing.
So good evening. My name is Lindsay Bollier. We live on Witten Drive in Saco. We currently have 4 kids in the Saco school system. My husband grew up in Saco and graduated from Thornton Academy. We had felt that the Saco school system would be a great district for our children to also grow up in, up until this past school year when my daughter entered kindergarten and we were introduced to the special education department. I feel that it is imperative I share our story, if not for the sake of my own daughter, but for the other children in the district that may be lacking special education services. I would love to say that my daughter's situation is unique in an isolated case, but the more that I've navigated this journey, the more I have learned our story is not. When consulting with the medical specialists in my daughter's life, I'm frequently told that lack of special education services in the Saco school district is common. Other Saco parents have also expressed the same concerns to me. I also understand that unless parents come forward with these issues directly to the school board, you may not even be aware of what's going on. My daughter is a 6-year-old kindergartner at Young School. She is on the autism spectrum, has sensory processing disorder, enuresis, urinary retention requiring bladder catheterization, and coparesis with chronic severe constipation having daily rectal flushes, a speech delay, failure to thrive with G-tube dependence, and severe oral aversions. My daughter's medical conditions have caused her to have 7 hospital admissions just last year alone. My daughter's first exposure to the Saco school system was Saco pre-K. It was decided that after her first year of pre-K, my daughter would continue for a second year. I was told during our transitional IEP meeting that the school was not ready or prepared for my daughter. Toward the end of that second year of pre-K, we had a transitional IEP meeting again, which was an extremely overwhelming and frustrating experience with the Saco district. The special education director expressed frustration with my daughter's case manager, who was advocating for her needs. Before the meeting ended, she abruptly disconnected the Zoom connection by just hanging up on all of us. Suffice it to say, nothing was resolved at this meeting. In a later IEP meeting, when discussing my daughter's needs for an aide, I was assured that if during the school year the need for an aide became apparent, the school could add one at any time. Despite multiple issues throughout the school year, the special education director continued to state that my daughter was doing well and all of her medical and academic needs were being met. Unfortunately, there have been many situations this year where my daughter's academic, social, and emotional and behavioral needs were not being met and as a result have put her health at risk. Throughout this school year, she has had multiple fecal and urinary accidents at school and sat in it throughout the day. One of the fecal accidents she had resulted in painful blisters to her bottom and upper thighs from sitting in stool throughout the school day from a medication she was taking. In early spring, she came home from school upset, stating that she didn't want to wear her tube feed to school anymore. She stated that another child on the playground grabbed her feeding backpack, causing her to fall. This child then proceeded to follow her around the playground, messing with her backpack. This could have resulted in G-tube being dislodged from her belly. If the tube is dislodged, we don't have hours to reinsert it, but only minutes, or she'll require surgery to have it replaced. Having access to an aide could substantially lower this risk, but more importantly, provide my daughter with the confidence that she is safe in her own school. My daughter has gotten off the bus covered in her formula and stomach contents. Her tube came disconnected from her pump on the school bus and she began leaking. By the time she had gotten her brother's attention for assistance, she was soaked. It's not her brother's responsibility to ensure the safety of his sister, but he took on the responsibility and graciously helped her fix her tube and used his spare clothes to clean up the mess. The school's response to this situation was that her tube feeding leaking on the bus isn't hurting her and is not detrimental to her safety. For a child with autism and anxiety, these situations cause meltdowns at home that last hours. Riding the bus and going to school already gives my daughter anxiety, and situations like this make it worse. In addition, we are not able to track the number of calories lost during the leaking and therefore unable to ensure that my daughter is receiving the necessary nutrients for her health. There have been numerous occasions where my daughter's pump will be beeping during the school day and needs to be reset. She is sent out of the classroom as it is causing a disturbance to the nurse's office to be reset. This has caused numerous hours of missed instruction. An aide would be able to reset the pump immediately in the classroom with zero disturbance and missed instructional time. I have attempted on several occasions to resolve these issues with the school IEP team to no end. I'm always met with excuses as to why they will not provide my child with the needed services for her to safely attend school like her typically developing peers. My daughter's insurance has approved her for one-to-one nursing support at home and in school. In February of this year, I recommended the nursing care be added to Haley's IEP to ensure her medical needs were met during her school day. At this point, the lack of care Haley was receiving was impeding not only her health and safety, but also her ability to receive a free and appropriate public education, just like her typically developing peers. Despite not having to absorb any financial responsibility for these services, I was still met with resistance and again told my child does not qualify for one-to-one support and they would not allow nursing care to be written into her IEP and provide support at school. The school has offered remedies such as feeding my daughter during the overnight hours to eliminate the need for her to be fed during the school day and sending her to school in diapers. For a 6-year-old to receive no nutrition during their school day is entirely inappropriate. Also, asking her to wear diapers is humiliating. Both circumstances set her up for significant academic and behavioral failures. Like many families of children with disabilities, my daughter and my family have been dealt a hand at life that can be unfair and challenging. As a parent, I have had to experience holding my daughter down so she can have feeding tubes shoved down her nose into her stomach to give her the medications that she needs. Holding her down while she screams at me, "Mama, please don't. Why are you doing this to me?" So that she can have her blood drawn for the umpteenth time. Her looking at me with eyes of pure disappointment when I tell her the school wants her to go there wearing diapers because they won't excuse her to stay home when she is receiving more bowel medication than a grown adult would receive during a colonoscopy prep. I could go on about the various situations that have taken place with my daughter throughout the school day, but none of us want to be here all night. The purpose of me sharing my story tonight is to bring awareness to the appalling care my disabled child has received and to demonstrate that there is a major gap in our special education department for all disabled children. This significantly challenges the student's ability to feel comfortable and thrive at school. My daughter looks to us for her care and support and trust that we will provide it. Ultimately, it is the school that is failing her by denying her these services for no reason other than they don't want to. I will not fail her in getting her the education that she deserves like every other child. Thanks for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you. If anyone else would like to speak before the school board, please come forward and be heard. Seeing nobody moving forward, brings us to item 7, Superintendent's report. Superintendent Ray.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Just as a shout out that today was Administrative Assistance Day within our schools, and we are very fortunate in our schools to have some wonderful people working in our front offices to help keep everything running, from greeting parents to making sure bus schedules are going appropriately to the dismissals and the visitors, and thank you for the hard work that they do. As we talked about at the last meeting, we know that we had another round of water tests that were done over April vacation. We have not received those results back. Typically, the first test, we were at about a 5-week situation. I don't know if retests are running on that same type of time delay, but we did retest all of those kind of problematic fixtures that were on the plan that we put forward to remedy, and as soon as we find out the results, we will kind of remedy that situation further. School construction meeting for the public. We had originally scheduled that for 5/23, but then realized that that was a possible city council evening, and so we moved it to the next night, which will be 5/24 at 6 p.m. at Saco Middle School. This morning, I saw a wonderful clip on, I think it was Facebook, of some of our students at Burns School who had raised $1,053 for Ukraine, and there was a great partnership with our Rotary Club in the area who matched that fundraising effort to send to Kiev and to a Rotary Club there, and April had a great Facebook video going on that with those students, so shout out to those students for all the work they put towards that. Next week is Staff Appreciation Week in our schools, and so certainly people have things planned, but nothing's any nicer than having the ability for a parent at home to just write a little note to their child's teacher or staff member about all the work and everything that they do, they put in to make school successful. Meg and Jeff at the middle school have been working really hard on kind of figuring out the furniture situation. So if the budget passed, that we'll be able to move forward. They met with the vendors a couple of different times on colors and some of the other pieces, and now trying to make the decision of which classrooms might want a table-type situation or who might want a desk, and giving a little bit of choice in that. We're hoping by the end of next week to have those numbers pretty locked up so that we can get a quote out. And then just a thank you to the PTOs in all of the schools. I know that at the middle school, they're working on some of the graduation pieces. We've got Young School next Friday night that is having a Wild Side event, 13th. And then we have an end-of-the-year event at Fairfield School, and then the Burns PTO fundraiser for Readathon went to kind of an online system this year, and this amazing amount of money was raised, like $20-some-odd thousand. And just those help offset any of the extra needs that principals have. So thank you to those groups.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Ray on the superintendent's report? School Board Member Gale?
Not a question, but just a follow-up comment on those students with the fundraiser for the Ukraine. What a great and inspirational thing those students did, and thank you for all the support for everybody helping them, and the Saco Bidder for Rotary for matching all those contributions. That's huge, and to think that those kids raised all that money for such just a dire need, that's great and inspirational, and glad to see that happening in our schools.
Thank you. Any further questions? Moving on to item 8, the chair report. Chair LaFortune?
I have no report this evening.
No report this morning, or this evening, rather. It brings us to item 9, staff reports. Are there any staff reports? I don't see any staff reports on the agenda. Brings us to item 10, board subcommittee meeting minutes. The next meeting of the Strategic Committee is May 11th at 6 p.m. The next meeting, Finance Committee meeting, was held this evening, or this afternoon, April 27th at 4 p.m. There's no meeting scheduled at this time for the Infrastructure or Personnel Committee. Any discussion on the meeting minutes? Okay, seeing no discussion on the board subcommittee minutes, brings us to item 11, old business. There's no old business. That brings us to item 12, new business. And item A is new hires. So in the packet, you have a memorandum with new hires. Superintendent Ray, does this require a vote?
Yes, we will need new hires for the replacement on retiree positions for teaching positions. We will need a vote on those.
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member LaFortune?
I move we approve the nomination of Jamie Cooper, C.K. Burns social worker, Emily Havlena, C.K. Burns teacher, Nick Fuller Goggins, C.K. Burns teacher, and issue a contract for the 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member LaFortune, second by School Board Member Truman. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to item B. Again, in the packet was a memorandum on resignations and looks like retirements. Superintendent Ray, is there any motion or any vote needed on this item?
We would just accept the retirements, yes.
Okay. School Board Member Truman?
I move we accept the retirement of Aaron Rudy, young school teacher, and Maureen McMullen, Fairfield School principal, effective at the end of the 21-22 school year.
Second.
Motion was made by School Board Member Truman, second by School Board Member Preble. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Johnston.
I would like, as a school board member, a parent, and a grandparent, to thank Mrs. McMullen for her service to the Saco School Department for many years. I'm a little emotional, I'm sorry. I have worked with Maureen as a school board member for a long time. She's very dedicated, she's very professional. I think that we will sadly miss her, but I want to say that I've appreciated working with her as a board member in committee meetings and all the other capacities that we have known each other in within the school department. And again, as a parent as well as a grandparent, my grandchildren are third grade and going in first grade right now, so clearly they've been her students for just recently and currently. So I just want to say that I very much appreciate her dedication to the school department, and thank you very much, Maureen.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, a roll call vote on the motion. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item C, a COVID update. Superintendent Ray?
So in your packet, obviously with vacation week, COVID update, we didn't have a lot of action last week, but like other vacations, there's certainly a little bit of an uptick. We had a few positive pools this week that we'll then report out, but we want to continue to have people, if they're not feeling well, to make sure that they wear a mask or choose to stay home in those pieces. The uptick is nothing like what this winter was like on return. So it's good that we can get outside and, that we have people who are taking care of themselves. So we're going to continue to monitor that piece. The state is discontinuing the pool testing on the 9th of May, I believe, is the last week that will occur. And so we'll continue to have tests available for people. They're moving to a situation where it won't be pool testing, but there will be, we are getting a packet of, I believe it's 3 or, I can't remember if it's 3 or 6 in the packet that each family would have access to. So if you weren't feeling well, a nurse would have the ability to send those rapid tests home for staff member and students.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray on the COVID report? Seeing no questions, that brings us to the fiscal year 2022 monthly financial statement. Superintendent Ray?
So we reviewed the financial statements in the Finance Committee prior to this, just about the pace of where we're at this year. As we begin to forecast forward, we believe that we will end the school year with a fairly healthy fund balance, which will allow us to carry forward to other projects or address some of the capital projects that we know desperately need attention. So we're feeling pretty good about this year of where we're at right now, and knowing that we will have excess revenue to pay down fully the deficit that we had with the city, have enough money. We had $300,000 towards new construction project, which we will get back once we pass, hopefully through the voters. And then also knowing that we have plenty of money to cover the carryover that's in this budget, we'll be able to match that and exceed that with, again, still a fairly healthy situation as we begin to move through the springtime. So we're feeling like we're in pretty good shape.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray on the fiscal year update? Seeing no questions, moves us right along to the 2022-23 school year calendar. Item E. Superintendent Ray?
So we have the first reading of a draft calendar for the next school year that's in your packet, with us beginning school with students on August 31st, going through the 175 student days, which would have our last day of school, if we have weather cooperating, on June 12th. sometime again, we're going to have a real winter here in Maine where we have like 7 or 8 snow days again. I really believe that's going to happen sometime for us. But very similar calendar to this year. October workshop day. Have a little bit longer of a break this year at Christmas time, just based off how the calendar falls. But other than that, other things are pretty much the same, so this would be a required first reading.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray on the school calendar? If there's no question, is there a motion? School Board Member LaFortune?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the calendar for the 2023 school year.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member LaFortune, second by School Board Member Preble. Any discussion?
Just one quick thing. I'm looking at the agenda, and E and F are duplicates. Just slightly different font on the second one. But they are the same item, so we can skip F.
I think F is for the school board meetings versus E is the actual school days of the children. That was my understanding, and maybe I'm incorrect there, but that was my understanding.
No, I think you are correct.
Okay.
So with that being the case, we typically haven't voted on those in the past. They've been something that we've sort of organically come to based on scheduling, but I'll save this discussion for that item.
Fair enough. Any further discussion on the 2022-23 school year calendar? Okay, roll call vote on the school year calendar. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Calendar passes 7-0. That brings us to item F, 2022-2023 school board meeting calendar. In your packet, there is a draft calendar for your review. Superintendent Ray, any update on this before pending motions, if any?
So I'm not necessarily sure that we do need a motion or not. I was just trying to get dates out to start thinking about what this would look like for the upcoming year. As I was doing the school calendar, I was like, oh, let's get this one moving as well. And so certainly you guys can just contact me with feedback, and we can, if we need to alter things around. Certainly sometimes that second meeting for us, because of vacation weeks or holidays, gets a little bit tight of where that would go, and so it doesn't, fit always into the normal flow of every other week, having that second week be by the holidays.
Any questions for the superintendent on the school board calendar?
I just want to say thank you for putting together a calendar for this next year. I like being able to plan around this, so I'm all for this. Thank you.
Any further discussion? School board member LaFortune?
Just a quick thing, in that this is intended, just for clarification, to be the standing meetings essentially. So, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I know that it's been a topic of conversation in the past of perhaps an interpretation that there's, or a perception that the school board meetings are all over the place and that they're never clearly documented. This is what they are, aside from workshop meetings, changes due to vacations and conflicts, any of the council school board meetings that we might have together, and so on. So this is strictly just for the school board's typical standing meetings.
Correct. These are the regular monthly meetings. As we know, February and March, we can add several dates to our calendar once we move through the budget process of what that will look like.
School board member Gale?
Thank you for putting this together. It is nice to have this available, but I guess just one kind of concern is from me personally, and the 5 p.m. meetings as we look into next year and the coming up on the school construction. I guess I'm wondering if there's any way that we can move those to later in the evening to allow for people greater public participation that may not be able to attend the 5 PM, or if there's some wiggle room here, or is this the calendar that we're wedded to as we move forward?
I think this would be my proposal for a calendar of what allows it to happen. I mean, certainly school construction meetings have been on typically off nights. When we probably talk about before that vote, I would time those with the 7 o'clock meeting, knowing that that is going to be a situation where there's going to be a lot of input about that piece, which actually will probably be fairly heavy as we move into the summer. Late summers is because we'll have to think about our timeline for getting things on. If we still have that eye on the November ballot, we're still going to have to, is it 60 days, 90 days? You have to have those ballots printed.
So the ballots have to be printed 30 days prior to the actual early voting. So
Correct.
early voting is a month before the actual voting, or roughly a month. So therefore, you actually have to have it ready 60 days
60
prior
days
to the
before that.
November election.
So a lot of the school construction talk will happen before September.
Yeah, I guess the 5 PM thing is a little tough, I think, for a lot of folks who work traditional schedule, and we want to hear from the public and have public comment. I guess the school construction is just one of those things, and to your point, I mean, with July, August, September on here, we've got 2 5 PM meetings, but can we look at some creative way then maybe of having, on the agenda, having public comment at the beginning and at the end? That way if someone who can't make it here till 5:30, they still have an ability to provide public comment?
Certainly as a policy committee, agenda can be as a topic that you guys could review. I don't believe I've seen that one yet.
I think we've done that one.
I think it's the second reading. I think it's come for second.
I believe we have touched on that. The policies are potentially always up for revision as the need arises, I suppose.
Yep. There are many, again, there are other school departments that do public comment in different places throughout the agenda. So that certainly could be something that the policy committee could make a determination on.
So I think tonight you're first reading of policies, and one of the policies is BEDD, which is the Rules of Order for the Board of Education. So I think between now and when it comes up for second and final reading, if you want to make amendments, that would be the perfect time to do so, to allow for public comment at the tail end of a meeting as well as at the front end.
And then I guess to follow up on this too, Mr. Mayor, I seem to remember a couple council meetings ago, there was discussion about, with some of these ARPA funds, the possibility of retrofitting this office, or this room, to enable hybrid meetings. Is that something that?
That is still
As we
in
move
that is
forward.
still in the budget, and,
Okay.
and as long as the budget passes on May 9th, or, I think May 9th, then that will come to fruition. It may not be right immediate.
Yeah, sure.
But
Yeah.
it will come to fruition. School Board Member LaFortune?
Just to follow up to Will's comments about timing and dates and stuff. I know that it would require probably a lot of coordination, but I'm wondering if in the bucket of what creative things we can do, is it feasible to pick a different day? And by doing so, have the meetings always at the same time? So for example, if we picked Thursday or Tuesday, would that make it possible for the meetings to always be, say, at 7 o'clock?
I guess that's a question for the superintendent, but I believe the idea of the whole 5 and 7 was to accommodate the shift, as Superintendent Ray also does Biddeford, whereas today he'll be here from 5 to 7 for this meeting and then goes right over to Biddeford for a 7 to 9 meeting. And then on the subsequent days or meetings, He'll be there from 5 to 7 and then comes here 7 to 9. So that, I believe that was the reason why the switch was made to the
Correct.
5 and 7, but I'll let him talk about his schedule and whether other days can be accommodated.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as, you know, we all have nights out and stuff. Well, I think they like me at home a little bit in the evening time. I'm not sure that they do. But as you think about, you know, the meeting schedule, it just has to be a doability factor between the 3 communities that we serve. And when we look at the additional meeting that tends to get added every single month from January to June with a joint meeting of the council, that always is a Monday night, there just has to be a doability factor.
School Board Member LaFortune, I don't know if you'll remember this, but I do believe during the budget months, they would only have 1 school board member, and School Board Member Johnston, you may remember that as well. Because of that meeting with the city council, they would eliminate 1 school board meeting for those couple of months.
We've actually done it in many configurations in the past. I recall doing that. I recall budget cycles where we had like 3 meetings in a week to cover the continued discussion of all of the different administrative departments. So, you know, you cover all of the school buildings on one day, and if you didn't get to them all, then you'd bleed over into Wednesday and then it's been done a number of ways in budget cycle. But it was also, in the past, we did have it on a different day. I think we had Thursday meetings at various times. I think we had Tuesday meetings at various times, Wednesday. It's moved around. The question was really just around the challenge of the 5 o'clock one in particular, as to whether it would be more palatable and, you know, understanding that, yes, it's still 2 meetings for you, they just happen to be on different days, whether that would be more manageable for everyone if it was all at the same time. It was just a question, you know, sort of thinking out loud about what we could do creatively with the calendar.
School Board Member Archie?
In regards to meeting with both districts, I think that maybe we should consider switching like to the other week and giving you a more open to executive session rather than once a month. Just throwing that out there. I don't know if that works for your schedule or not.
Say that again.
Well, it seems like we can only really do an executive session on the days that we have a 7 p.m. meeting. So if we went and did the alternating week from Biddeford, you could do like a 5 p.m. for both meetings. And then that would give you more time for more executive sessions. I'm just throwing that out there if you needed it.
Try not to have executive sessions.
I get
is the
that,
goal.
but sometimes I just feel like they're pushed back a little bit because, you know, it's once a month.
And again, when there's something important, we can schedule something like that. I think that the conversation needs to be about if the meeting schedule doesn't work for you, we have to figure out what works for you guys, and then we have to figure out what works as an organization and a system to meet those needs.
Okay. Just picking your brain about it.
Any further discussion on this item?
So following up, just to simplify it, what you're suggesting is instead of the 2nd and 4th Wednesday, doing it the 1st and 3rd Wednesday, and so that it's essentially not likely to conflict regardless of topics that might come up with other meetings that might cause something either to not be able to be on the agenda or it's compressed, or is that really what you're asking?
Yeah, and like if we have a 5 o'clock meeting, I don't want Jeremy to feel rushed that he has to make it over to Biddeford by 7. That doesn't really seem fair to Biddeford either.
Mr. Mayor,
Excuse me, School Board Member Johnston.
it seems like we're sort of in a workshop session right now, and I feel like maybe this is something that we should review a little bit more and come back to talk about, because I think either we vote for it tonight or we don't, but it seems like a lot of the board members are interested in more conversation around it. I think it's always hard to accommodate everyone's schedule. And so we certainly try, but it is a challenge to do that. So my thought was just that we have a lot going on in this conversation, and maybe we should have more conversation aside from this particular meeting.
Thank you. As Superintendent Ray has indicated, there's no real need for a vote tonight on this item. And as School Board Member Johnston indicated, that there's several discussion points that may want to happen in between now and when you adopt a school board schedule for the next year. So maybe the discussion can continue and we can move on to the next item. Any further discussion on this? Okay, moving on. Item G, a first reading of policies. There are several policies here. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of policies?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Johnston?
I'd like to make a motion for this first reading, but I'd also like to preface it by saying, as you just so correctly surmised, there are a lot of policies here. I think there are 22 of them. It's evidence to the fact that the Strategic Committee has been working hard to get these things in place in a timely fashion. So I will go ahead and read these, but bear with me because it is a lot of reading. I move we approve the first reading of KDB, Public's Right to Know / Freedom of Access, BEDD, Rules of Order, BHC, Board Relationships and Communications with Staff, BBA, School Board Powers and Responsibilities, BBAA, School Board Member Authority and Responsibilities, BBAB, School Board Self-Evaluation, BBAB-R, School Board Self-Evaluation Procedures, BBBA, School Board Member Qualifications, BCAB, Governance Standard, BDA, Board Organizational Meeting, BDD, Board Superintendent Relationship, BDF, Board Advisory and Ad Hoc Committees, BDG, School Attorney / Legal Services, BE, School Board Meetings, BEC-R, Executive Session Procedure, BED, Remote Participation in School Board Meetings, BEDA, Notification of Board Meetings, BEDC, Quorum, BEDI, Board Relations with the Media, BEDL, Adjournment of Board Meetings, BIB, Board Member Development Opportunities, BICE, Certification of Completion of Freedom of Access Training.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Johnston, second by School Board Member Truman to approve the policies just read and included in the packet. Any discussion on the number of policies? Seeing no discussion on the policies, roll call vote on the first reading of policies. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item 13, other information. I don't see any other information on the agenda, so we'll move forward with item 14, which is executive session, and they're showing no executive session this evening. So that brings us to item 15, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
School Board Member LaFortune, second by School Board Member Truman. Any discussion on adjourning? Roll call to adjourn. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to adjourn at 5:45 p.m. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.